welcome back to Ball with y'all. As always, I am here with my great co-host, Mr. Zach Gray.
And I'm here with my great co-host, Sean Johnson.
Zach, how you doing?
Man, I don't know. You've been with me the last 72 hours on the whirlwind of a tour across the great state of Florida, up through Georgia, into South Carolina. We have been in 3 rainstorms. We have seen one of the greatest SEC opening games in a while with Florida and Utah. And then we just saw a whale of a race at the Southern 500. How are you doing?
I'm really tired.
Yeah, you've been driving.
We are somewhere in the middle of South Carolina, and it's been a long weekend, but the show must go on.
Just for you people.
Just for you people.
Just for you people.
Just for you people.
Just for you people. It's the only reason we're doing this.
I'm so tired.
I'm wiped. I'm wiped.
As always, are so thankful that you chose to join us, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Breaker, or on YouTube at BWY Productions. Zach, what do you say? Let's get into our first segment. Let's crack it open.
Let's do it.
So, like I said, of course, we did have a lot that happened over the weekend with some massive games across the nation, some massive moments in the NASCAR sports world. Of course, we will start with what we saw in college football. Zach mentioned we were at was perhaps the best game of the weekend in the form of Utah visiting Florida. Zach, what were your thoughts going to the Swamp?
Well, first off, first time for both of us being there. Pretty amazing. If you are a fan of college football like I am, obviously I have my rooting interest, but as just a fan of the sport, go to a game in the Swamp. That's an incredible experience. Go to a marquee matchup game. That place was rocking. And also, Tom Petty in between the third and fourth quarter, you can't go wrong there. So we had a great time. It poured. It was hot. We basically escaped the heat by going into a bar, and then we escaped the rain by going into a Chick-fil-A. And we still got rained on at the game. So,
yes.
Pretty great game. I had fun.
It was great. It was great to get to experience what Florida fans deal with on a weekly basis. You know, going into that game, I think there was some strong optimism for the Gators and for the Gator faithful. But I don't think people really were expecting them to win, per se. And they went out there and took care of business, ran it right down Utah's throat.
I know. And we were thinking, like, early on in the game, like, okay, well, they're running a lot outside. They don't want to go straight up with Utah. That wasn't the case in the third and fourth quarter. They just stuffed it down Utah's throats over and over and over again, ground and pound. Richardson, the quarterback, spectacular plays. The 40-plus yard touchdown scamper, the 2-point conversion play where he gets out of a sack, dekes and dunks a pass, and then hits a guy wide open in the back corner of the end zone for 2 really big points at that point in the game. I mean, I'm just blown away. I'd like to say I called this. Florida was my sleeper team. I said 9 to 10 wins this year, and I had them beating Utah this week. I had them covering the 3 points. So I take a little credit. Not that I'm a fan, but I take some credit in this.
Yeah. With some other things to say on that front. But
fair.
But I will say, honestly, looking at Florida now, really excited about them. I think they're probably odds-on favorite to win this week against Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even go as far to say they could beat Georgia.
They can definitely compete with Georgia.
I think Georgia's going to lose 2 games this year, so that's one of those 2 games.
Oh,
there you
go. More on that later as well. I think Florida, I mean, the SEC, we'll get into the LSU game that just happened in a minute. But for the most part, the SEC looked pretty solid, I think. Some teams had some slower starts. I wasn't too impressed with my Ole Miss Rebels, 28-10 over Troy. Not too hot on that.
Georgia looked great.
Georgia and Florida were the 2 impressive teams. Obviously Alabama. But obviously Alabama's playing a weaker opponent than both Georgia and Florida were. But Georgia and Florida really stood out to me this week. And that game in Jacksonville, I think, can be one of the best tickets you can buy all year.
To see Stetson Bennett get named the Walter Camp National Offensive Player of the Week.
There you go.
Was not expecting Stetson Bennett to get named the National Walter Camp Player of the Week on the offensive side of the ball. So pretty cool to see there. Great to see Bo Nix crumble under the big stage once again.
Typical.
Dan Lanning fell flat against his former employer. So that was good as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you did mention the LSU and Florida State game.
Oh, my gosh.
Which just went final about probably, 40 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we were at the race, so we didn't get to watch too much of it. We were kind of scoreboard watching during the race. Got to see the last
5 minutes, I'd say.
5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So we jumped in, kind of as Florida State was trying to hold on there. And then...
Hold on is an understatement.
And then they punt the ball. LSU's going to get the ball. Now, keep in mind, LSU's already muffed one punt in the game. And then they muff another one. And then
make it a double.
Make it a double. Florida State gets the ball, proceeds to get to the 1 yard line, and then they bumble it on a toss.
Yes.
What was that about?
Mike Norvell.
Getting
too cute.
Year 3, man.
Year 3, still figuring it out.
Hand it off. But so then LSU gets the ball. They go 99 yards down the field. With 1 second to go, they have one more play. They score to bring it within 1 point. And then they kick it.
Any other coach goes for 2.
Any other coach not named Brian Kelly goes for 2.
And what happened on the extra point?
It was blocked.
Shades of Miami 2016.
I don't even know. I mean, that's the worst possible way for Brian Kelly to begin his career at LSU.
I mean, was anybody really expecting Brian Kelly to do anything this year? I mean, we talked about it early on in the season. We were talking about outlooks for the year. I don't see LSU being that competitive. 5, 6, maybe 7 wins. Brian Kelly is not an SEC coach. He's a good coach, but he's not an SEC coach, and there's a big difference between being a good coach and a great SEC coach.
Well, and I think to that point as well, we talked about on the most recent show, on the Friday show last week. I don't know what to make of this LSU team. I've heard last in the West. I've heard second in the West.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that Jaden Daniels is the second coming of the best quarterback ever to exist in the SEC, and I've heard that he's kind of he's middle of the road. And honestly, I was not all that impressed by Jaden Daniels. I was expecting a lot more in this Florida State game, and they didn't do much for me.
No. I mean, LSU, to be fair, it's not going to be all Brian Kelly if they're not successful. I mean, I think the roster's pretty depleted from where Orgeron left it. But still, FSU's not good. They're not good. And LSU, this is basically a home game for them playing in the Superdome.
Yeah.
They won 2 national championships in that building in the last 15 years.
And what was the stat you told me? How many straight games had Brian Kelly won against unranked teams?
42 straight wins against unranked teams for Brian Kelly coach teams.
Wow. Well, and also, like I mentioned you on the way over here, up until recently, Brian Kelly was the winningest active head coach in football.
Mm-hmm.
And then Saban recently passed him, but Kelly's no slouch. We know that.
No.
But it's clear that he's not fit for the SEC role.
Well, I mean, also, too, if you can't beat FSU, you haven't even played Arkansas. You haven't played Ole Miss.
Do we know what their first SEC game is?
Ooh.
That's
standing by.
Check on that.
Standing by.
While you look that up, I just think it's incredible when you look at beyond the SEC landscape, around the SEC landscape, looking at Cincinnati, Arkansas, for example. Great opportunity for Arkansas to show where they stand in the conference. And also a really good showing for Cincinnati as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Cincinnati kind of overperformed what I thought they would be able to do. They could have won that game, I think, for sure. Yeah. But Sam Pittman, great job, maintained the game, got them to the finish line, held their own, especially when it looked like Cincinnati was about to take over, when they just cut it to 7. They had the ball inside the 5, and then the Hogs and their fans came to life. 4 straight penalties on Cincinnati to keep them to a field goal there. 3 false starts and 2 false starts and 2 delay games going into the end zone there. That's incredible.
Huge. LSU, their next SEC game?
Yes, we have discovered. They open up. They get lucky. Their first 3 SEC games this year: home against Mississippi State,
winnable.
At Auburn,
winnable.
And then home against Tennessee.
Probably the toughest of the 3.
Yeah.
I've got Tennessee winning 10 games. So.
Yeah, yeah. But then they get a test. They go at Florida, home Ole Miss, home Alabama, at Arkansas.
I was really worried about that first week of November game against LSU. I'm not too worried about that anymore. No.
But that's a tough stretch. I mean, I would hate to be in LSU shoes right now. Bowl eligibility is a lot further off than what they would think.
Yeah, no, and it's a bad time to be an LSU Tiger.
Yeah,
to say the least. But
agreed.
That's okay. Beyond the SEC landscape, we did get a very interesting game in Columbus with Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Dude, what was that? I mean, we kept watching the scoreboard at the Florida game, and we're like, so it's still 10-7.
I was texting Dylan from New Jersey. I was like, what is going on, my friend?
Yeah, it's still 10-7. It's still 10-7. It's still 10-7. It was still 10-7.
Well, of course, we didn't have the full context of what was going on. We didn't know that Jackson Smith and Jigba had gotten hurt
Right.
Pretty early in the game. At least at the point of recording, we're not still entirely sure what he has going on there, whether it's an ankle, a knee, or whatever else, hamstring. Big loss there. I mean, we talked about Ohio State's offense being unstoppable. Well, it gets a little bit more stoppable when you take out a key piece. And they were already without another key piece as well. So when you take out their top two receivers...
Yeah, top two receivers down. And then, listen, Morgan Freeman. Marcus Freeman. Not Morgan Freeman. Close. Marcus Freeman's a defensive-minded coach. I mean, Notre Dame's defense was decent last year. So you knew they were going to come to play, and then it helps when Ohio State's two best playmakers are off the field. I did think, though, when we were kind of both in agreement that as we were watching that game or watching the score, it was kind of like, when does Ohio State pull ahead? It was not a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And then they did, hitting a touchdown with what? Was that 12 or 13 minutes left in the game?
Ballpark.
Yeah, and then another one. That drive, oh my gosh. 7-minute drive.
Did they have two long drives to end the game?
Yeah, I believe so. But the one that is the backbreaker was a 7-minute drive, 90-plus yards to make it a 21-10 score, which is what the final score ended up being. Notre Dame's not out of it by any means. I think, if anything, I'd feel better about being a Notre Dame fan today than I would going into that game because my expectations were not anything close to what Notre Dame was able to do. But...
I mean, you look at Notre Dame's schedule, right?
They still got some tough ones.
They have to play BYU.
Not easy.
That's at home. The North Carolina game won't be a problem, as we saw this weekend.
No.
They do have Clemson at home. So, of course, at the time of recording, they've not seen Clemson play yet. They're playing tomorrow evening. So, when this comes out, I guess the night prior. But we'll see how that one shakes out. And then also USC on the road. So, there's a tough road ahead for Notre Dame. I think the floor, obviously, would be probably 9-3, 8-4. You hope that Notre Dame can kind of right the ship and maybe go 10-2 here, but I wouldn't necessarily be entirely discouraged after what I saw on Saturday night. But I also wouldn't be incredibly too encouraged either.
Yeah, I think both teams kind of walk out of there feeling like, okay, like we kind of did what we were expected to do.
Buckner played relatively well, 10 of 18, 177 yards. I mean, he didn't have a touchdown or an interception, so it was okay. But just a really mucky game, it felt like.
Agreed. Yeah, I thought Notre Dame outperformed what they thought they were going to be able to do. And I think Ohio State gets away with probably playing their toughest game and getting out there with a victory, not playing their best. I think if this is the Oregon game last year, Oregon still beats Ohio State. But Ohio State played that game against Notre Dame and walked out there with a victory today. So they got their mulligan out of the way, still won, and it sets them up in a nice position to go through the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Of course, going into that game, C.J. Stroud was the overwhelming Heisman favorite.
Not anymore.
Walking out of the game, probably not. We did see some pretty strong Heisman performances. I would say very strong performances across the country that did warrant some Heisman buzz. You saw Caleb Williams at USC. You saw Bijan Robinson down at Texas, and then also Bryce Young in his resounding return campaign did not disappoint for the Crimson Tide. Any thoughts on that front?
Bryce Young's very good.
He is.
And I don't care if he's playing Utah State. He's really good.
First performance of over 100 rushing yards.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's... You're going to fly with him, honestly, all year. I don't really see anybody get in the way of Alabama. It's kind of what we said. I think after this weekend, I feel even more confident that Alabama and Georgia are going to go 12-0 and walk into the SEC championship. I think Anthony Richardson could be a fringe Heisman contender.
He looked good. Looked great.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Mullen just sucks as a coach.
He really screwed that one up.
I mean, like, oh my goodness. Like, how do you have that same guy last year? Don't start him for over half the games, and when you do start him, you don't give him a playbook to work to his skill set. So props to Billy Napier and the rest of their coaching staff for giving him the tools that he needed to make those plays last night. because that guy has talent, as we saw up close and personal yesterday. That guy has real talent and can lead Florida to a really good season. And they're playing to his strengths. And you know what? That makes your team play a lot better too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think obviously the Heisman race is wide open, but a lot of great performances, and I don't think C.J. Stroud had one of them. So
no, if anything, Stetson Bennett's in better shape for a Heisman run than C.J. Stroud is right now.
Yeah, and honestly, that's wild to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, kind of stepping aside from the games themselves, we did have some news on Friday that came out that want to get your thoughts, Zach. I know we kind of discussed ad nauseum on the way up here. We do have, finally, playoff expansion.
Thank God. Thank God.
Some might say.
I think it's, some. I think it's good for the sport. I mean, to just quickly summarize it, top 6 conference champions get in, top 6 highest remaining teams get in. First round is at the host teams' stadiums, and then the next...
Or if they want to choose a nearby site.
Correct, yeah, true. And then the quarterfinals are at 4 of the New Year's 6 bowl locations, and then the semis are still at 2 of the remaining 6 New Year's 6 bowl locations. So, someone, like I said, I love the sport more than I even like my own teams. It's fun. The games are going to matter more, I think. There'll be more entertaining football being played. I don't see guys sitting out those games. Ohio State had guys sitting out the Rose Bowl last year. I don't think that's going to be happening anymore because there's trophies to play for beyond just a bowl victory, which I think is important. And I think it also kind of slows down conference expansion and protects people like the Pac-12 and the ACC, because now all of a sudden you have to just be one of the 6 highest ranked conference champions and you can make the playoff. So if I'm Washington and Oregon, why would I go be the 5th, 6th best team in the Big Ten when I could be a top dog in the Pac-12 for years and years to come? And I think it also makes the Pac-12 and the ACC a good destination for some teams that are looking to jump into those better conferences, like a San Diego State, like a Boise State, like an SMU, like a Memphis. So as someone who's kind of a traditionalist, I think this is a victory for those who share that kind of sentiment, where it's like you want to see these conferences last. And I think it'll be more exciting. We get more football. What's better than that?
I hate this.
I know.
I hate it so much.
Sorry.
I think it's ridiculous. And I don't need to go any farther than looking at the game that took place in Atlanta. I mean, how are you going to sit here and tell me that Oregon, who lost by 46 points, the 11th best team in the country, playing the 3rd best team in the country? I mean, clearly these games are not going to be any closer than they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at some of the projections out there. Obviously, you would have had like Ole Miss, Oklahoma State. That would have been a good game, but then put Ole Miss against Alabama again, or put Oklahoma State against Alabama. I don't know how it works out. The problem always goes back to parity. My concern, and hopefully I know this is as early as 2024, maybe as late as 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully at that point in time we have more parity where it goes beyond just 4 teams. But even look at the current playoff format right now. How often? I know it's happened a couple times. 2014, for example, when Ohio State was the 4th seed. Alabama, when Alabama snuck in there as 20 as the 4th seed, even though they were the number 1 preseason overall. So
right.
I feel like that's kind of a skewed one. But generally speaking, the 3rd seed, the 4th seed isn't going out there and winning anyway. So my concern is we're just going to put more people in there just to say that they were there, but in reality we know that it's only going to be this subset of teams that have a really good shot at it.
My thinking is those semifinal games are always going to be blowouts. But I'd much rather have a really fun quarterfinal game or first round game. And those games I'm really excited to see. So I'm going to get more exciting football games, knowing that the semifinals are going to be blowouts probably. But at least be exciting. And it's more football. I like more football. You like football?
I love football, but I like meaningful football. And that's the problem. But that's okay. We're still a couple years off of that. I'm sure some things will evolve over the coming weeks, months, and years. So we'll keep our fingers on that pulse as well. Beyond that, we do have a bit of an update on our favorite segment, some might say. Let's talk about the Hawaii Rainbow Wager Warriors.
I can't win.
Yeah.
I thought Hawaii would cover again. I'm 0 for 2.
So,
Hawaii can't cover at home against Vanderbilt or Western Kentucky.
For reference, Zach had a Hawaii plus 16. And what was the final of that game? Do we have that?
We do. In our Ball with Y'all sports app.
We have a Ball with Y'all sports app?
Mm-hmm.
I should look that up. Well, while I look that up, separately, I won again.
Yes, I know. You were 2-0.
Final was 49-17, so not remotely close.
I missed it by 20.
Yep.
No big deal.
I, however, because I go off the beaten path in my picks, I had that there would be a score in the first 5 minutes of the game, and my friends from Hawaii came through 3 minutes 14 seconds into the game and got a field goal.
So Hawaii scores first.
Yes.
And then it's pretty much just downhill from there because that's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, they scored first, and then they proceeded to give up. It was the 49-14 run for Western Kentucky.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Congrats, Hilltoppers. Also, too, I just want to encourage everybody, start doing this. It's fun.
Gives you a reason to watch this late at night.
Oh, I know. And we were driving from Gainesville. We got out of Gainesville about 11 o'clock. We got to our hotel right around 2.
The game was still going on.
The game was... We were an hour into our 3-hour drive. We're like, all right, it's kickoff time. It was great. I loved it.
It gives you something to look at.
Yeah. Become a Hawaii fan. It's fun.
Please do. It's something to do, man.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I think we'll go into our next segment, NASCAR 1 to go.
White flag, next one is it.
Very good. So, Zach, we are coming off of a race that had a lot of highs and lows. I was miserable for a while, and then we had some really exciting moments at the end that made me less miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Key takeaways from the race.
Our driver's not very lucky.
No. Most drivers not very lucky.
Not most drivers, but it was kind of... So, Chase Elliott wrecks out into stage 1, gets 1 point. Sean's beside himself.
I walked away.
Shawn left the stands, didn't know where he went, came back, did not say a word for 40 to 50 laps.
Yep.
Was looking at a spot in the backstretch.
Just staring.
Yeah. Smoke coming out of the ears.
My life was over.
Well, and then Shawn was very happy because my favorite driver, who is not Shawn's favorite driver in the slightest, had an issue with his tires and went 4 laps down, and Ross Chastain basically took a top 5 car and put it in the low 30s for a while there. He did recover to finish 20th, which that was incredible. But this race was a race of attrition, and we had a very surprise winner.
No, I mean, you look at the fact that Erik Jones goes out there, and, well, of course, all that led up to Erik Jones winning.
Yeah, let's back up.
Let's slow it down first. Well, you mentioned Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
Having issues, which ultimately he overcame, still finished 20th, right?
20th, yeah. That's fine.
Solid day for him. Larson came back from
too.
being 4 laps down.
Yeah, top 20 for him.
Briscoe never really came back after the incident with...
No.
with
Well, he never had speed.
Yeah, well...
There were some... I mean, Briscoe and Dillon didn't really have speed. Dillon ended up finishing, I think, top 15, or top 20 maybe. He had a great race for the most part, finishing-wise. But, first of all, Kyle Busch...
The Gibbs cars, my gosh.
Had that thing locked away. First off, Truex did too. Let's back up even further. Martin Truex Jr., race of the year for him.
Far and away, yeah.
Yeah. 4 or 5 seconds out in front.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Busch is a non-factor.
Yeah.
And he gets in the wall, loses power steering, fluid, everything, out the door. Kyle Busch takes over. We get that caution from Cody Ware, which...
Yeah. When he hit the wall the second time.
Yeah, when you need a caution, just call that guy.
Just slam it against the wall, jeez.
Yeah, goodness. That guy just put it...
It's like you're begging for a caution.
At that point, yeah. And we're sitting there under caution, and we're thinking, wow, okay, so we got Erik Jones and Reddick up here. They're probably going to try something here on this restart. And then all of a sudden, off of 4, Kyle Busch starts smoking.
Yeah.
And the whole crowd erupts.
Yes.
With Shawn leading the charge, by the way.
I was so excited. I was so
bummed. The thing that made this race even better for us, at least, was the fact that we were sitting on a row with 4 Erik Jones fans. Probably the only 4 I saw there.
Yeah.
And they got to celebrate their guy winning a race for the first time for that team since 2014 and the first time for that driver since 2019. So a 50-1 odds driver winning is always pretty fun.
I mean, after Austin Dillon last week, we had a couple of really interesting surprise winners.
I know. What are we? Who's a 40-1 odds favorite?
Who's
Kansas?
next?
Yeah. Give me everyone 40-1 odds or higher.
I mean, and then also Harvick.
Yeah, he put that thing on fire, drove right past us.
Yeah.
We're like,
So,
what's going on there?
I mean,
he's on fire. Nice.
a number of playoff drivers watched Erik Jones. Honestly, we're probably happy to see Erik Jones go out there and win because you saw Harvick have an issue and have his day end early. Chase Elliott, we mentioned. Briscoe struggling back there. Suarez having a great run and then having the pass through.
Yep.
So it screws his day.
Yep.
Dylan's still fine. Cindric is fine, but nobody's safe at this point in time.
Nobody's safe and nobody's out of it. I mean, just looking at the point standings here, first place is Joey Logano. He's only 38 points ahead.
As we saw, Chase was 40 going into the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, 40 points can be earned in the last stage of a race. Yeah. And then Kevin Harvick, who's 16th on the grid, is only 13 points out. So, you have Austin Cindric, 2 below the cut line. Austin Dillon, 4 below the cut line, which if you're Austin Dillon, you got to feel like today was maybe a win, honestly. Come out there, only 4 back. Chase Briscoe, only 10 points out, and then Harvick only 13 out. So, nobody's safe. I think Kansas will start to see some separation in the points just because that race usually is relatively tame and the teams that have the speed usually run at the front. But overall, tremendous day. Our first time at Darlington. Had a great time at the Tweet Up today with Bob Pockris.
Yes, we got a photo with him.
Got to meet Bob.
And Jordan Bianchi, who,
fantastic guy to talk to, super down to earth.
Yes.
If you don't listen to the Teardown every Sunday night, do it. Him and Jeff Gluck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is an official plug for...
We are plugging another podcast.
Yes, please do
The Teardown.
Please listen.
Great insights from those guys from The Athletic. So that was really cool to meet them. And then we also made a friend, Checkered Flag Chris, on TikTok, who has over 100,000 followers. This guy has gone to every single race this year across the country in his truck.
I didn't even know his name until just now.
Great guy, right?
Great guy, yeah.
But he travels the entire country.
Goes to Planet Fitnesses.
And drives to every race. He's been to every race this year. He's got 9 more left after tonight, obviously. Really cool talking to him.
Great Packers fan.
A lot of great people there today, honestly. Obviously, like I said, our first time there at Darlington, I would definitely come back. Really fun atmosphere. Track was great. Good food, good people, and great racing, too. You never... It seemed like every time you figured out, okay, I think this guy's going to win, something would happen. Looked like Byron had it going away. Mm-hmm. He lost track position. That was it.
I thought Hamlin was going to get at the end.
Hamlin looked like he had it, too.
Reddick.
Logano at some points tonight. Both the Gibbs guys. There are a lot of comers and goers in the field tonight, which made it for a really entertaining race. I'm very excited for the rest of the playoffs because the field is widening and very open at this point.
I just got to say, I was delighted to actually get to watch a race this week.
Yes.
That felt like a win in and of itself.
Well, it rained too.
It did rain. Yeah, that was the other. We got a caution.
Twice. It rained when we got to the track, and then it rained when the race started, and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
They were waving the green flag, and we're like, we are feeling raindrops
There's
right
drops
now.
hitting my head.
I feel like this is out last week all over again, and you're just going to see someone veer into the white wall.
Yeah.
But overall, solid day.
Yeah, and shout out to, some of the guys, too, that were up there. Michael McDowell, his 11th top 10. Brad Keselowski, top 10. That's cool. Bubba Wallace, top 10. That's big for the owner's points battle that he's in the 45 car.
Cole Custer, top 15.
Cole Custer, top 15. What that means...
What does that mean?
Nothing.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
It means
but it's fun.
He's going to stay in the 41.
He's going to stay in the 41 that his
Bob told
dad
us.
is the general manager of. Yeah, we did ask Bob some questions about Kyle Busch next year. It seems like he thinks RCR is the leader of the clubhouse there, which is weird, to say the least.
I think it makes sense, especially with his point on Stuart Haas and especially Ford's lack of interest on the truck side of things.
Yeah, that does make the Kyle Busch acquisition a little bit less hard, or a little bit harder to make happen for sure. But overall, amazing weekend. Shawn, you've been killing it driving. I appreciate you.
Just a little bit more tomorrow.
Only 8 hours.
Only 8 hours.
In Labor Day traffic.
Perfect. Roll Tide.
But yeah, Darlington is fantastic. I am looking forward to the next time Ball with Y'all is at a race, which will be Talladega in October. Mm-hmm. And then Homestead again in October.
Yeah.
So we will be posting a lot of photos. Got some cool videos of action at the game, at the track.
Yes.
So keep your eyes on the socials for those. And Erik Jones, a winner.
Big day for him, and a big day for Petty GMS. So really exciting. That will do it for our Tuesday edition of the show. Hopefully you enjoyed all that we had to talk about. And hopefully you're looking forward to week 2 of the college football season. Of course, we'll be back later this week on the Friday show to preview the week 2 games and also the big race at Kansas on Sunday. As always, we appreciate you allowing us a little bit of your time today. Encourage you to check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok. And as always, appreciate you allowing us to talk some ball with y'all.
Catch y'all. I don't even know. If there's any other thing I could just say, I hope you listen to this episode and you're more awake than both of us because we are dead. We're dead. We've been driving. We've been at 2 sporting events. We've been in rain. It's 1 a.m.
And we still got 30 minutes. How did we do that?
I don't know. That was fun.
What a great episode.
When is our next episode?
Friday.
Catch y'all Friday.
Catch y'all Friday. Have a great Tuesday.